listening to Give God 90, where we're not afraid of the tough biblical questions, because we will dig through the language, the culture, and the history to find the truth revealed in the words of our Creator.
Well, hello, everyone. Thank you for letting me spend some time with you today. Normally, I am monitored and supervised. Myra is running some errands. She's got some things to do. And quite honestly, with everything that was going on this week, I needed to record this now. So, yeah, it's a little easier when she's here because there's other things that I need to do while I'm watching this and she's not, but that's okay. If you like the things you hear while you're listening, I appreciate those like buttons, share buttons, all those things make it just easier for people to find us, just like you did. And if you haven't been to GiveGod90.com lately, you might want to check that out. Author Jerry Mitchell, that's all one word, authorjerrymitchell.com. That's where the books are sold. And all the commercials are done, and I can get started. You know, I hate commercials. I really do. It's just one of those things, but you got to say it because, you know, if I don't say it, some people don't think about it. So just a friendly reminder. I want to look at something today that, you know, again, it shows David being human, right? And it's Psalm 10. And it's another of David's Psalms that just shows how much of a person he was and how, you know, he had the questions that many of us do. And Psalm 10 begins, Lord, why are you so far away? Why do you hide when there's trouble? We ask that a lot, right? You know, it's like, are you there, God? Are you sure you're there? You know, there's been times when I've wondered, you know, I know he is, and we'll get to that in a minute. But even though we know, it seems like, why are you letting all this go on? Now, verses 2 through, I believe, 11. Proudly the wicked chase down those who suffered. The wicked set traps to catch them. They brag about the things they want. They bless the greedy, but hate the Lord. The wicked people are too proud. They do not look for God. There's no room for God in their thoughts. They always succeed. They are far from keeping your laws. They make fun of their enemies. They say to themselves, nothing bad's going to ever happen to me. I will never be ruined. Their mouths are full of curses, lies, and threats. They use their tongues for evil. They hide near villages. They look for innocent people to kill. They watch in secret for the helpless. They wait, hiding like a lion. They wait to catch poor people. They catch the poor in nets. The poor are thrown down and crushed. They're defeated because the others are stronger. The wicked think, God has forgotten us. He doesn't see what's happening. Now, this is in David's time, and I'm reading, of course, from the International Children's Bible because it tends to oversimplify these things. But here is some place where it makes it very, very plain, very understandable, right? David laments that the evil and wicked think they're empowered by the Creator's absence. He describes what he sees in his day. And it's a lot like what we see today. The wicked take advantage of the innocent, and they say, oh, there's no God. But the thing is, they're willing to treat each other like gods. Verse 3, they bless the greedy but hate the Lord. What that actually means is they bow down to each other. Oh, that hurts, right? That hurts. This is what David sees in his day. This is what we see in our world today, think about this. Nothing bad's ever going to happen to me. I've got it made. I can do whatever I want. Oh my. And it seems like they're always successful, right? They don't care about, God's instructions, his rules, his laws. All they care about is themselves. They're selfish, self-centered. They make fun of the people who worship God, right? They persecute the people who worship God. Nothing bad's ever going to happen to me. Oh, God doesn't care what I do anymore. God just doesn't care what I do anymore. They hide near villages. Think about our cities. Think about our cities. There are people who roam the streets looking for innocent people, looking for the helpless, looking for their next victim. They wait to catch the poor in nets. Oh, how many scams do we see going on today over the internet? What do we see? If you'll click on this link, we'll solve all your problems. If you just click on this link, we will solve all your problems. And you click on the link and your problems just begin. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't ever do that. God has forgotten us. He doesn't see what is happening. We see it today. See it all over. Just look at the news. Listen, read the newspaper. Listen to the radio. It's all right there. Solomon said, nothing new under the sun. Nothing really changes. Funny thing is, David gets through lamenting about the evil people, and he's just asked, are you there? Where are you? Why are you hiding? And then he kind of changes gears. He knows that the Creator's there. And he actually trusts that our Creator will deal with evil and wicked people accordingly. Verse 12, Lord, rise up and punish the wicked. Don't forget the people who need your help. Why do wicked people hate God? Verse 13. They say to themselves, God won't punish us. Well, the same question, the same thought many of us have, it's often repeated in the Psalms. Why do people choose? Why? Let me back up a second. Why do people choose to reject God? They think there's no God, so I can do whatever I want. You see, without God, without his instructions, we have no moral compass. We might think that society would have evolved so that, we could come up with these rules on our own, right? Like, murder's bad. Adultery's bad. You don't want to steal from each other. That's bad. Would mankind really have come up with these things? Think about that. In the evolutionary religion, and I'm going to say it that way, in the religion of evolution, they often compare mankind to the animals. Have you ever watched a group of animals when they're eating? The weaker ones, they have to wait. The stronger ones, while they're eating, they push each other around. They'll steal from each other, right? So would mankind really have come up with the moral laws, the moral compass that we have without our Creator? I kind of doubt it. They think there's no God, so they can do whatever they want. Oh, I know people like that. I really do, and I bet you do too. Verse 14. Lord, surely you see these cruel and evil things. Look at them and do something. People in trouble look to you for help. You're the one who helps the orphans. David's begging God to take some action, to do something. Don't just sit back and watch it, but you got to fix this mess we're in. Yeah, we know we did it, right? Sin and mankind seem to go hand in hand, right? And David's saying, look, you got to fix this. You've got to do something. Verse 15, break the power of wicked men. Punish them for the evil they have done. David wants to see an end to evil in the world. Does that sound familiar? Does that sound familiar? Anyone who believes in a creator, they understand and they realize there are things happening in the world that does not agree with the rules that our creator laid down. And they say, we just want to see an end to this. God's got to do something. Right? God's got to do something. David continues in verse 16, the Lord is king forever and ever. Remove from your land those nations that do not worship you. Now, the most translations are going to use the word nations in this verse, right? If you go back and you look at the original word there translated as nations is goyim. Sometimes it's translated as Gentiles. Sometimes it's just people. It kind of depends on the context, right? In Exodus 19, the mixed multitude is described using the same word. So David's saying, look, the people who don't bow down to you, would you just kind of shove them off to the side somewhere? He's not saying push them off over a cliff. He's saying, I don't want them around me. I don't want to be surrounded by these people. And finally, in verse 17 and 18, Lord, you've heard what the poor people want. Would you do what they ask? Listen to them. Protect the orphans. Put an end to suffering. And then they will no longer be afraid of evil people. Well, if there's no evil people around, there's no reason to be afraid, right? When David begins, he asks the question, are you there? Are you hiding? Where are you? He knows God's there. And I have heard this presented as if David is questioning if God is real. And a better way to think about this and how it begins would be, why are you allowing bad things to happen? Can't you see what's going on? Now, of course, our Creator knows what's happening, and He allows it for many, many reasons. He often uses people who don't worship Him to bring those who do trust Him closer, or to cause them to remember, maybe I'm not following everything I need to be following. Maybe I need to repent. And, sometimes He uses them as protection from someone or something that's much worse. When Joseph went to Egypt and then Jacob's family went to Egypt, the Egyptians didn't worship our Creator. Jacob and his family did, but the Egyptians didn't. But they were being protected from the famine. So, yes, sometimes our Creator will use what I call the unwilling participants. And the way He does that is He uses them to sort of push the people who trust Him in the direction He would like them to go. Now, they can resist. Jacob didn't have to go to Egypt, right? Noah didn't have to build the ark. But He will push these people in that direction. Say, look at what's over here. I think it'd be better if you went this way. And he uses those people who don't bow down to him, those unwilling participants, to kind of guide that. Look at how he used the Persians, sent Israel into exile. Now, there's a lot of things that go along with that I don't have time to get into, but he used those folks. He used them. A lot of people say, well, he used them to punish Israel. Yeah, kind of. But you know what? Israel was doing some things that they shouldn't have been doing at the time. And he used them to push them back. And when they came back, who was there? Nehemiah, and Ezra. That's why we have the Hebrew Bible we have today, is those two people. David knew these things. And so do we. But we still ask, why is it necessary for these bad things to happen? Why is it necessary for me to go through the things I'm going through? Well, you're not going to like my answer because, let's face it, we all fail to follow his instructions. We fail to live the way he designed us to live. You might think, well, I'm a good person. I go to church or I go to synagogue. I pray. I worship. I sing the songs the way they're supposed to be sang. I'm doing good. I'm living the way I should. But are you living the way he designed you? You see, if you've replaced his word, his instructions with your traditions, you might be the one he's pushing in a different direction. You might be the one who needs to repent and change some of the things you're doing. Think about that the next time you begin a prayer. And you might want to begin by asking, am I doing the things that glorify you, or am I doing some things that, just don't conform to what you said, what we should be doing? And then ask, just show me. Show me which direction I need to go. Give him permission to correct you first so that you can then show others through your actions, not through your words, who you choose to worship, who you choose to bow down to, who you choose to serve. So you see, it's your actions more than your words that convince people, right? And that's one of the most basic biblical principles there is. It's not to be like the wicked and evil people we see around us. We're called to be different. We're called to try and live the way he created us to live. Are you going to get it 100% right? Of course you're not. Don't be ridiculous, as the old TV show used to say. I can't remember who played that role. If you don't get it 100% right, does that mean you failed? No, it means you're trying. David writes in Psalm 27 that he seeks God's face. Moses was seeking God's face. He says, I need to see you. I need to see who you are. God said, nope, not going to happen, Moses. You stand here in this hole in this rock. I'll put my hand over you so you can't see my face, but you can see me walk away. Does it mean that they failed? No, I don't think so. They wanted something they weren't able to have. That doesn't necessarily mean they failed. It means they were trying. They had a desire. They had a want. They had a need. They didn't fail. They didn't fail because they had the deepest desire to seek their Creator. They wanted to know who he is. They not so much the what he is. They understood the what, but they wanted to know who. They wanted to know God like we know some of our friends, right? They wanted to be able to sit down and have a face-to-face conversation so that they would understand. Now, our Creator says, that's not going to happen. You're not ready for that. Not yet. Not yet. One day you will be, but not yet. That's not failing. That's a journey, right? That's a try. Thomas Edison, when he was trying to develop the light bulb, he tried many, many different ways to try and get something in that, little space to glow. Somebody asked him one day, how many times did you fail? And he said, well, I didn't really fail. I just found a lot of ways it didn't work. But he had a desire, he had a drive, he had a need to succeed. And that's what we need. We need to have that desire to live the way he designed us to live. We need to have that desire to say, okay, maybe I'm not doing something that I should be doing. Maybe I'm doing something I shouldn't be doing. Show me what it is. Help me. Guide me. If you go to him first with that request, chances are you won't have to put up with the wicked and the evil people that will be there, or that he will allow in your life, so that, you're pushed, right? Now, I need to be careful, because if you ask that and you get hard-headed about it, he might send somebody to push you in the right direction. So, if you make the request and you get the answer, I suggest you do what he asks you to do, or you might, get that little shove, right? Just saying. That possibility's there. And I have related this time and time again. I asked, and I said, look, you made me hard-headed and thick-skinned. If you have to hit me over the head with a baseball bat, do it. And he did. He showed me. He did. That's why we're here today. The thing is, if you ask, he will show you. If you ask and you reject what he shows you, then you may experience what some of the folks that David describes experienced. And that's what it's all about. Living, taking these biblical principles and applying them to our life today, so that we can have that, happy, joyous, successful, productive, long life that our Creator wants us to have. It's that simple. It really, really is that simple. And all we have to do is try. Now, the harder we try, the more successful we're going to be, right? I had a question this week. What's more important, happiness or success? And I said, it depends on your definition of success. Because they're really two different things. I know a lot of successful people who are miserable. And I know a lot of happy people who found a lot of things that didn't work for them. So bear that in mind. Bear that in mind. All right. Until next time, as I try to move some things around here to get where I need to be, until next time, we do wish you many, many blessings, everyone.